Oh, there we go. Rock and roll.
That's so inappropriate. So inappropriate.
So inappropriate.
Let's open this podcast.
Let's do it, man. Welcome to episode 137 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Today is May the 11th, 2014. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and this is my brother from another mother, James Furlo. And by that I mean my, same mother. It just doesn't quite rhyme as well if you don't say it the way you're supposed to. So it's
Brother
Mother's
from the
Day.
exact mother,
Yeah,
James Furlo.
exactly. It's Mother's Day. That's the long and short of it. That's what I was driving at. So,
Well, happy Mother's Day to you mom listeners out there.
yeah,
Or
specifically our mom, because without our mom, there wouldn't be a podcast called the Furlough Bros.
yeah.
Well, there might be, but it would be really an incredible sequence of events that would lead to it. Maybe they talk about music or something.
Or movies.
Or Say, isn't that what we do? Um, yeah, I saw The Neighbors this week, actually.
Our alternative universe. Yeah, I saw that. So was it good? Let's just start with that.
It's funny. It's really funny. It's weird it straddles this line between, like, all the people who make these movies are growing up, and you can tell, because they're not about mid to late 20s problems anymore. They're about, early 30s problems and having kids and growing up and becoming adults, and they're all freaking out about it, and it's funny. But
Yeah,
it's
the interesting article was talking about that where they were like, yeah, this is the new trend, and so they expect to see. Well, they were saying Hollywood. So I have a new headset that I'm messing with, and so I think I'm going to be playing with it all night long. Um, anyways, that's why I sound different. But they were saying that Hollywood's going to pay really close attention to how Neighbors does, because it could be a harbinger for movies to come. It
I
does
like that
well.
word.
I know you do. I knew you'd appreciate that.
Yeah, that's not surprising to me because it's like, yeah. I mean, it's got the raunch factor of of a lot of those Judge Apatow
You know, the worst part
movies.
is though, I I feel I watched the trailer for it,
Yeah,
and all it did was annoy me because I felt like because how do I want to say it? I what's the word? I'm not resonated with, but when you empathize with or you feel for the character.
yeah. Did you say you just muted yourself?
Did I?
Yeah, that was weird.
Oh, weird. Anyways,
So you
um,
resonated.
yeah, I resonated with or identified with, that's the word I wanted. With the Seth Rogen character guy. I'm like, oh, those kids would just drive me crazy, and I just feel like it would just be annoying to watch. But
That's
I don't
funny.
know.
I'm more. I mean, talk about where we are in life. I more resonated with the Zac Efron character because of how good looking I am. Um, no, just with that, being loud and having loud sound systems, and I don't do the frat house thing anymore, but um, a lot sometimes, and I don't know. It's funny. It's an interesting, it's an interesting difference, and I don't know. I think that's the one thing I went with one of our cousins, and I told him after the movie, and I said, I didn't really laugh at all the first half an hour, and I think that's because I don't have a kid. I think if I had a kid, it would have been hysterical, and
Uh,
because it was
I,
more of them just kind of it was setting the stage of trying to bring this character actor by and large Seth Rogen and turn him into a dad. So you were, but at the same time it had to be funny, and I don't know, but it's good. It's fun. It's a good movie. Like I said, it's a little bit raunchy, but it's funny. There's some pretty funny scenes. um, but you know
Good to
what,
know.
James?
That's not
You
why we're here.
That's
Took me
not
a
why we're
while.
here. Thank you. Um, what this? Jeez, why are we here? We're here because this week, like every week,
Every week.
we're going to be talking about technology and the continuing corporate opera, and by that we mean the soap opera of corporations' dealings back and forth, the people working for them, their marketing campaigns, and of course, last but not least, the technology they're developing. But before we get into the heart of the show, James has got a short disclosure he's going to throw your way. Get that out of the way. Can I take care of business, as it were?
I work for HP, but do not represent HP or any of HP's opinions. And I just finished this last week HP's Standards of Business Conduct, and it was reaffirmed to me that I should tell you that.
Nice. I appreciate your conductiveness with business
Yeah, whenever
matters.
you take this it's like an hour-long training thing to make sure we're conducting business in a standard, ethical way.
I understand. One of the nice parts about working for a really small company is that that never happens. Well, I don't know if
Yeah,
it's a nice part or not. Maybe it leads to long-term problems, but at least I don't have to sit through that meeting. Um,
but it's all virtual, self-paced, man.
oh baby, which means you can like
It's all
goof
good.
off while what's going on. Nice.
Yeah,
Uh,
except well, no,
ethically,
they ask questions of understanding,
uh,
and
the worst.
and they can track it on an individual basis. So you'll actually get like an email nastygram if you don't do it by a certain date. They're like, we noticed you haven't done this yet because it's like
Yeah.
apparently you get in trouble. I wouldn't know because I always do it, but
Oh,
that's
you're
what I do.
so ethical. Um,
Dude,
taking care of
I I'll do it.
you what?
If you ask me to do it, I'll do it. Even if I'm like, I don't know about this, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. But
It's good to know.
just
If you
for
like,
like for in order no, so we'll keep with this big company, little company. In order for me to have email on my phone, I have to have an app installed on it that can track my email or something. I don't know. Um, they claim it's to keep it secure and whatever. And so there's some people who are like, dude, this is my individual.
you keep making yourself go mute. It's weird.
What was that?
You just all of a sudden you went mute. It was a moot point.
Well, and then you like repeated yourself like 50 times.
Really? Uh-oh. Is it Google? Google Plus.
No, it's probably my headset. Here,
Uh-oh.
I'll go grab my other pair and we
Oh
might.
no.
But that's right. We'll solve this. We'll solve this. So, anyways, some people were like, I have ethical problems with HP being able to, see what I'm doing on my device, and I was like, yeah, me too, but I'll do it anyways.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
I have ethical problems with my boss being able to track everything I do on my phone. And by ethical problems, I mean business problems because he knows that I'm surfing Reddit, and so I surf over LTE instead. Once again, I'm glad my boss doesn't listen to this show. Uh, but yeah, if you do, yeah, that's funny. Ethics is an interesting question. They like for the engineers, they would make us take like tons of classes on that kind of stuff. Like, don't be jerks. I'm like, okay, we'll try not to be. Um, but yeah, if you want to follow us throughout the week and see all sorts of posts and stuff that we put, pictures and as James referenced when he said, "I saw you saw that movie," that's because he follows me on social media. And what social media do you ask? Well, Instagram and Twitter. Those are the big ones. At Matthew D. Furlo. That's my Twitter. Next Wiggin for NEXTWIGGIN is my that's like Ender Wiggin. For Instagram and then Facebook, just type in my name. Seriously, like you can find me. It's all public anyways. But man, I don't think I've ever turned down I've denied some friend requests where you're like you're clearly not a real human being. Go away.
A
But
bot.
yeah. But if you appeared what?
Let's see here. I just typed your name into Google, which has some sort of atom molecule thing on it for its thing today. Let's see. Your very first one was Facebook, and then your actual website, and then Twitter, and then a post that I did, and then iTunes podcast, and then furlobros.com/Matthew, and then you're in the white pages, then your MySpace.
I don't have a MySpace page.
Very bottom is your Google Plus page. Apparently you do. So,
click on it. What does it say?
Yeah, let's see here. It's resolving. It's thinking hard.
It's resolving. I'll bet it is.
Furlo's profile on MySpace, the place where people come to connect, discover, and share. And load. All right, let me click it again. Just load. Oh, by the way, on the side, because you're my Google Plus contact, it has all of your contact information.
Whoa, weird. That's
I think that's just for me.
Yeah. Look at that. There's that's like a real web page. It's a picture of me. Weird. I did not know that this existed. I was unaware. My top 8? Oh, baby. Do I have photos? Does it have my?
Well, there's like.
Whoa! I thought these photos were like gone. That's funny. They kept them. It's one of my favorite pictures of me getting lightsabered to death, by some kid. Like we showed up in the Best Buy and like I had my lightsaber and he took out the Sith lightsaber and we started like dueling and just like he's like this random 5-year-old in the store and one of my friends was taking pictures and he hit me and I like crumpled to the ground and fell on the ground dead and he took the lightsaber, he flipped it upside down and stabbed me right in the gut and my friend managed to capture a picture of it. Oh my gosh, I was laughing so hard. He was like, you knew exactly what to do with a lightsaber. That is awesome. Good times. Wow, that's hey, nice job, MySpace, remembering that I exist. I thought that was long gone. That's crazy, man. Who else is in my? Oh, wow. Alex Gravett still has one. The Roleras. Who else is in my? Whoa, wow, that's nuts, man.
Oh, that's one blast from the past. You can also find me online at James Furlo on the Twitter, on the webs, on whatever.
I saw an article that I decided not to talk about today that was about the internet crumbling and kind of like it was just old, especially with the prevalence of apps and how kind of apps have taken over by and large on your like prominent way to connect with the internet and as opposed to web pages, which thank you MySpace for just crushing that entire argument, man. You guys are doing good work.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I read a similar one, and it's kind of like the internet is clearly not dead because all of those communicate and connect through the internet.
Yeah.
Now, is the web dead on mobile? Perhaps, but whatever. It's just taking a different form. It's not dead.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I decided not to talk about it because I thought it was kind of just a stupid article, but.
Good. Glad we knocked that one out.
Yeah.
What I would like to talk about, though, is China and more Alibaba.
Alibaba. Prince Alibaba.
Alibaba? Prince. Yeah. Anyways, they are a tech company, a Chinese e-commerce company, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they filed for an initial public offering.
Mm.
Public. And they're not small, apparently.
Nothing in China
Sometimes
is.
yeah, and they are described as a combination of eBay, Amazon, and Google.
You know, if you were gonna be a combination of three internet companies, those are three good ones to pick.
Yeah, yeah, and they're pretty sure that they're going to set the record for the biggest IPO in history.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and apparently their revenue is like, or their company's value, I can't remember now, is actually like bigger than eBay and Amazon combined. So they're
Whew.
not small.
And they're
Yeah,
going public.
they're going public. They expect that they'll probably raise somewhere between 15 and 20 billion dollars, which
Holy
Facebook's
cowabunga.
16 billion, which was the current record, and they're like, yeah, they'll probably end up breaking that one pretty easily. They're yeah, they're not small, and what's interesting about them is that they are 23% of them is owned by Yahoo, and that is actually the big driver of Yahoo's value right now in their stock is Alibaba's doing really well, and so Yahoo stock is doing really well.
Wow. That is random. That is
Look,
not something I would have guessed.
yeah, Yahoo. I don't remember the exact reason how they got in on it, but a few years ago they funded them, and that out
One of
really
the
well.
one of those other CEOs that got fired for being retarded.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, they let's see here. They're huge. They have 231 million active buyers who spent a total of $250 billion last year
Whoa.
on their website. That's a lot of money.
That is a ton of
Which
money.
that's the volume. That is more than eBay and Amazon combined. I'm right
How many
there.
users was it?
231 million active
That
buyers.
that would be like every adult in America buying. That is so many people.
How about this one?
Holy cow.
80%, 80% of all Chinese e-commerce transactions go through Alibaba. Yeah, and so one of the things I like this quote here. It said, "It brings to the forefront of everybody's mind that Amazon and eBay are not the number one e-commerce markets in the world. The world doesn't end when you leave Silicon Valley." Like, yeah, I hope to shout. These guys are
Turns
not
out.
small. So what they're
Well,
gonna
I'm just
do
glad
is they're gonna
Yahoo owns a quarter of them.
yeah, well, and they expect Yahoo's going to sell off about half their shares, and so then like, yeah, Yahoo can pretty much buy whatever they want at that point then, because they'll have
Right.
some change. Um, yeah, so they're going to be able to, they're going to raise some money and be able to defend their position even more, and everyone else is pretty sure that they're also going to try to enter into the United States as an e-commerce player. Because right now, I mean, I don't buy anything off of them, and I mean, I don't even know if it's in English. Let me see here. Let's see here. Alibaba.com. Will this work?
Alibaba. Manufacturers, suppliers, exporters. Oh, that's a lot of English.
Oh yeah.
Global trade starts here. Let's see.
I get
Apparel, men's
underwear.
clothing.
Ooh, a necklace. Kitchen faucet sink. These are like so random.
I'm gonna get jeans from Pakistan.
iPhone 5 cases.
Oh, nice. That's what? $13 jeans? Holy cow, those are ugly jeans. Wow, that's cool. Man, I'll have to check this out. I'm not gonna buy anything from them. Who am I joking? I don't buy anything from Amazon. I mean, I'm the wrong demographic. That's not true. I buy books from Amazon and then get them stolen. Um,
Hmm. Right. Yeah, so they're gonna go public. They think sometime later this year. There's no real hard deadline on it, but they're not a small company. It will be good for Yahoo. It'll be good for some other investors. It'll be good for Alibaba, of course. Um, but yeah, that's kind of crazy. There's just big company out there that the U.S. is largely ignores.
There's only 150 employed people, 150 million employed people in America.
Huh? Is that higher, or lower than you expected, or?
Well, it's a lot. I don't know. I'm just like comparing that to the number of active buyers on Alibaba. I mean, it's just a scale that's crazy. I mean, it's so much bigger. And that's the thing with China, right? Is like everything they do is gigantic. China Mobile has twice as many users as there are Americans. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's so big. It is so big. Jeez. I mean, anytime you consider any major movement that any of these companies are doing and you don't include what they're trying to do in China, you've completely missed the picture. I was talking to one of my good friends, and we were talking about the 4.7-inch iPhone versus the 5.5, and whether or not Apple is going to make the 5.5, and he was like, we talked about it, and like he asked me what I would want. I said, well, 4.7. And and I probably would, and I'd have a hard time choosing between a 4 and a 4.7. Like I like them kind of small. And he was like, yeah, and I was like, and he's like, not the 5.5. I was like, the 5.5 is ridiculous. How many people buy 5.5s? And he's like, oh yeah, and he was agreeing with me, and finally, like, he goes, so why would they even make the 5.5? I was like, cool. China, because they'd sell 1 billion of them. It's unbelievable how many they would sell. The Chinese buy them in droves, and there are so many Chinese people. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's just nuts. But I know. Good times. So speaking of Apple, and buying stuff, rumor has it Apple bought something this week, or settled on a price for what they want to buy. Um, as you
It
can
makes,
see, they what?
I don't. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish, and then I'll interject.
As you can tell from what I have on my ear bones, that I'm not a fan of this company. I go with Skull Candy, but they're buying Beats, or part of Beats, or all of Beats, or nobody really knows. All they think, the rumor is they're gonna make Mr. Dre, aka Dr. Dre, a bazillionaire, which is kind of cool. And for Dr. Dre, it just doesn't really affect me at all. Um, no real tangible way. But like I said, it's just a rumor. A lot of people have confirmed, big players have confirmed that they definitely were in talks, um, but no word on what the actual deal was or what they settled on. But what were we
Yeah.
gonna say?
It just doesn't make any sense from everything that I've been reading. I don't get why they would buy them. It's atypical. Okay, there's a streaming service, but it's not that big. It's not proven. Okay, they've got headphones, but they don't match Apple's style. From everything I've read, it's not like the absolute best quality. Though, to be fair, HP includes them with like all of their products. So,
Well,
so
yeah.
there's that. Yeah, HP would be really bummed
Oh
if
yeah.
they ended up getting bought. That
Well,
would be a bummer.
so
But
my
I don't
yeah.
know. I'm trying to figure out, like, it's rare that Apple buys a third-party brand like that and takes them on. Yeah, I'm just trying to
I
figure
think
out.
I think there's a lot. I actually like hesitated bringing it up on the show because it's still in the rumor phase, and to me there's just
Yeah,
it
it's still
doesn't
rumor mill.
and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's not. It's we don't have the complete picture yet, because I've heard a lot of people that were like, basically
Apple's dead.
Apple. What?
Maybe that's a sign that Apple's dead. It's rotten at the core. Haha.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a bunch of people say that basically Apple has lost its cool factor, and this is their way of buying back cool, because Beats has got a good brand, and it's all about the triumph of marketing over quality, which I think is ridiculous. I honestly think it's just like, I bought Skull Candy because I think they look cool. And They what? Man, I keep.
Apple's not about cool.
I know.
Am I out crazy?
Yeah, a little bit.
Ah, this is annoying.
Whenever I talk, I think
Well,
I.
we're gonna deal with it this entire show.
Okay. Good to know. Um, so basically, yeah. So Apple, like, I know, I think it's stupid. I think that idea is dumb. But the biggest thing that I'm getting is like the price for the rumor of what they bought for the price that they paid for it is wrong. It's not wrong. We don't know the whole deal. It's either a lot more money or they didn't buy all of Beats. And the simple reason for it is, you know, Oculus Rift doesn't have a product. They don't have sales. They don't have much of a future beyond, the promise of what people think is kind of cool. And Facebook paid $2 billion. Nest Lab has two products, a small market, slow growing, but just basically they wanted to hire these guys, and have the creator of the iPod working for them, and Nest. I mean, it's a really cool product. They've got a lot of really smart people working on them. They paid $3.2 billion for Nest Labs. Like, you sit there and you go, now compare that to Beats Audio, which, yeah, they're not the biggest players in the, well, they're not the biggest audio player in the market, but they're still huge, and they're growing, and they've got a lot of potential, and people really like them. And you're trying to tell them, and they've signed all these they've inked all these contracts for the streaming audio thing, and that they've got going on. They've got a bunch of different people working for them. I shrug my shoulders and I say the $3.2 billion doesn't make sense. They're worth more than that. And if Apple got the entire, yeah, I don't know. I guess say if Apple got the entire Beats Audio for $3.2 billion, it's a screaming deal. It's just a steal. And I'm my guess is that they didn't buy the hardware, for the exact reason that you said. It doesn't fit their style. It's not what they do. Johnny Ives he's so powerful at the company right now. Unless he loves Beats Audio headwear, and I just don't buy it, that he does.
Maybe
I
there's
don't
a
know.
specific white model that he likes.
Yeah, right. I have a feeling that Johnny Ives would love to make some headphones, but
Well,
why
he
would he?
did. Fair.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, good point. He made the headphones. Made the earbuds. And it's just, I don't know. It's like you said. It's not their style. It's not what they do. And maybe they're trying to change things up and try something new, which cool. I'd be excited to see it and see how it turns out. But just given what the company is and given the price that they're talking about, it doesn't make any sense. You want to know what I think is going on? Honestly, this
Yes,
is
I
my
do.
this is my full guess. Um, I think Johnny. I thought it was like Levine, because the I at the beginning of his last name, is looks like an L, and I always thought it was just Levine, and I was like, okay, his name's Levine, and then I heard somebody actually pronounce it, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then I realized it's an I. It's Iovi, like Ein. It's just, whatever. I have no idea how to say his name, so it's gonna be Johnny Iovine. Iovine, whatever. I think he is incredibly smart when it comes to the music industry. He's got a lot of connections, and he's able to ink deals. Um, and Apple's been having a really, really hard time without Steve Jobs doing that with media companies. I think what happened was they went to him and said he got his start, like, or he became huge rather, with being one of the co-creators of American Idol. So I mean, he's a guy who gets pop culture music. Obviously, they like his two big ventures were American Idol and Beats Audio. What? Like, okay, the guy's got a resume. I think Apple went to him and said, "Hey, we want to work with you. We think you get the music industry. We think you get what the future of the music is. We want you to be part of the DNA of Apple." And he said, "Look, I got this program I'm working on. I got this project I'm working on with Beats Audios. We think it's got a huge financial future, and I got partners that I'm not just going to walk away from." And Apple said, "What if we make it worth your while?" And that was how they came to the number they came to, is what was the number that was going to make everybody happy so that he could join Apple. And and they are, I think what they're going to buy, I think they're going to buy out the streaming audio service, and a bunch of these contracts that Apple's been having a hard time kind of locking down for Spotify style competitor. They've all of a sudden they've got those locked in for a year, 2 years, and they can build some momentum on the service before they have to start renegotiating with companies. And then with the hardware, if they bought the hardware, which I still don't think they did, what they're going to do is they're going to basically tell Johnny Ives, hey, pick whatever hardware you want to keep, whatever patents you want to keep, whatever, and do with it what you want with it. Build some cool looking Apple headphones, the big old Apple symbol on them, and then we'll sell the rest. And Beats Audio will become, something else with somebody else. And I think it was just a payday to get Johnny Iovine into the company, which is basically what Google did with Nest Labs, and that to me is reasonable. That to me makes sense, and is that's the sort of thing that these companies do regularly, and it's the sort of thing that Apple would make sense for Apple, because they, like you said, they never ever buy brands. They buy technology. If it's good technology and it's something that they can incorporate and bring into their fold, they'll buy it, and then they get rid of the brand, and with one notable exception, and that was Siri. They kept the brand, but that's just because, I don't know, it was a good brand and nobody knew of it yet, and it was like, oh, it's clever, we'll keep it. And so I don't know. I can't believe that they're going to bring their headphones. And the only thing is that if you walk into the store, man, like they sell a bunch of different headphones, and maybe they just sit there and go, the headphones sell really well. we want that action. But it's just hard for me to believe that a company that prides themselves as
next big thing, huh?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. They're a company that prides themselves as catering to audiophiles, and the problem with Beats, and I hate people who get down on just crack down on the quality of Beats, because they're overpriced. Don't get me wrong, they're overpriced. You're paying extra for style, but as a couple of Mac owners, okay, I get that. I get the cool tax, but the thing is that what they are is they're designed for a particular audio profile. If you're listening to a particular type of music, they're just fine, because what they do is they do post audio adjustments. So they basically have a built-in bass boost, and so if you're listening to hip hop, they're perfect. If you're listening to classical music, they're not great. And if you consider yourself an audiophile, which scientifically demonstrated, most people who think they're an audiophile aren't. They're just pretentious. There are incredibly rare genetic freaks who can tell the difference, but they're genetic freaks. They don't exist in the wild. And people who super pride themselves on great quality music, they can't actually tell the difference. They just like the idea that they think they can. But beats distort the sound for a particular type of music. I'm not going to deny that. But the idea that somehow they're terrible headphones and you should make fun of them because you listen to the wrong kind of music on them, what's wrong with you? People just drive me nuts sometimes. Whatever. I'm defending Beats, and because I don't even buy them. I'm not even. I think Skull Candy is a cooler company, but
you are such an Apple fanboy that you've now found yourself in a position of defending them.
I know, right? I've defended Beats for a while, okay? But I like to take a fair and balanced approach to these sorts of things. I like to put all my vitriol into people who attack stuff, as opposed to I like to attack the attackers as opposed to attack the defenders. I think that's my excuse. I'm talking to you, Mac Daily News, BT Dubs. You guys are a bunch of jerks. Come off your high horse, man. At least listen to what deal Apple inked before you start condemning Apple for making the deal. For crying out loud. Actually, they've got inside people that they talk to. They might actually know what the deal is. But it's besides the point.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, let's change gears here and let's talk about startups for a little bit here.
Okie dokie, artichoke.
Because this last week was TechCrunch Disrupt.
Oh, baby.
Did you follow much of it at all?
I followed it a lot, but
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh. Um, it was more than me. But I'm gonna lead out anyways
go
because
for it.
I know who and who the runner-up was.
Tell me.
There you go. Do you know actually?
Not off the
Besides,
top of my head. I've just been following the different like companies as they've come up, so surprise
you
me.
if you had to guess who it was, would you?
Oh no.
Okay,
Well, I
that's
just
fine.
opened the article,
The
so now I could
winner.
guess.
So the winner is a company called Verb. VURB.
They spelt it wrong.
Verb. Well, it was an available URL for a reasonable
Mm,
price. So they are an interesting company, and then we'll talk about the runner-up because I think they're more interesting. And that'll tell you where I'm at in life. Um, they talked about how the in the world of search used to be, when the World Wide Web, you're talking about the web dying, was first started up. There's this concept called surfing the web, right? Sound familiar?
yes.
And it was this idea of going from blue link to blue link to blue link to blue link, and you would be jumping across the web, surfing the pages, if you will,
Down
and
the
finding
rabbit hole.
interesting. Yes, yes, exactly. And so these guys were commiserating that that no longer happens. Now we are a world of tabs or an internet of tabs, right? Where we have all these discrete, isolated searches and paths that we're going down. And so we try to, so we separate them all out. And he gave an example of, if you wanted to, I forget what it was, like go on vacation or do a weekend getaway, you got to research the hotel, where to eat, fun things to do, the people you want to do them with, things like that. And so they were just saying that, you for each of those different paths, they they may not be related, and you'll have a different set of tabs opened up in order to do that search.
Hmm.
And so they're like, it's just and it's a sea of blue links, right? And that's it.
Hmm.
They're like, essentially. And so what they said is that they've created a way so that you can essentially surf the web again. And so it's an example of you might be searching for movies, and because maybe you want to, dinner and a movie, right? Um, he said, let's say you're searching for movies, you would search for it on Verb, and then you might bring up a movie, and you go, oh, this one looks interesting, and like Spider-Man 2, it looks
Hmm.
interesting. Maybe we want to go watch that, and it'll show up the Spider-Man thing, and then if you wanted to, you could click in to see the Rotten Tomato, you could see reviews, read critics, which is kind of that surfing idea. Oh, go down the rabbit hole. And then he'll say like, but maybe you decide you want to go watch Neighbors instead. And so you go search for Neighbors. What'll happen then is that that kind of that box or research that you've been doing for Spider-Man 2 will shift down a spot, and then that next, that top section where that main interface is now all about Neighbors, and you watch that and you're like, all right, well, maybe I'm still not 100% sure. Maybe I'll see if Winter Soldier's still in theaters. And so you search for Winter Soldier. Spider-Man 2 drops down. Neighbors is the next one in line. And so his whole point is that they're doing a couple things there. One, they're giving you a rich visual history, things that you've searched, so you don't forget about them, that they're there. And then two, they're pulling information from a bunch of different sources and putting them into one context-aware interface so that you can learn about, all about those things. Like I was talking about the movie, right? It's not just a description, that's there. There's reviews. There's maybe stuff about the actors. There's related movies, um, that kind of stuff. And then they're saying like right now they've got it for places and for media, which is somehow different than movies. And what they eventually want to add are like people and startups and other verticals. And so that's kind of their, unlike Google, which is just a general web search, they're starting down specific verticals and paths,
Hmm.
and and going that way. So they were the winners. TechCrunch.
Congratulations. It sounds cool. I mean, I think the reality of it is that Google's trying to get there. That the whole computer thing. They want to,
Yeah.
they want what Google's trying to build is an AI that talks to you. You talk to,
Well,
and
and that's what they were saying is that it's less of a Google search competitor and more of a Google Now slash Siri competitor, which I was like maybe Google Now is the more appropriate. Uh,
yeah,
Google Now is one where, I mean, it's a pretty cool deal, right? Where you it knows where you're at and it helps you plan out your events. It'll tell you how far stuff is. It knows what things you're interested in, and it's kind of got that running log and list of stuff, and you can do searches and get more information from there. I don't know. It's a little different, I guess, but um, they're saying it's closer to that than just a straight up search. But it
yeah.
sounds like an interesting tool for if you're trying to do some research on a specific vertical. It sounds like it could work pretty well to help you plan all that, or at least figure out what you want to do.
All right.
So that was the
Interesting.
winner.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
and I should probably
I signed up for it, so when I get a chance, I'll let you know what I think.
cool, cool. The runner-up, I actually thought was significantly more interesting, but that's because I own real estate. So, um, a company called ISI Technology was founded by a guy who also founded Blue Rhino, which are those refillable propane tanks. I'm sure you've seen them in front of like Safeways and Home Depots and
Yes. So wait.
other.
He founded that?
Yeah, he founded Blue Rhino, took it IPO'd, and then decided what, and then asked the question, what am I going to build next?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, I'm bored.
yeah, yeah. So this guy, he's a successful person, and which is why I'm pretty sure this new company will be successful because he's figured it out. Yeah, Blue Rhino is a pretty interesting concept. You buy their tank, and then instead of having to get it refilled, like our dad has to do at the gas station, you just walk up and go, I want a new one, and you pay whatever it is. I don't know the exact amount. It's like $25, and they just exchange tanks with you.
It's the
And
beer keg model.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Or yeah, and yeah, it works pretty well, like I said, and which not really invented anything. That's more like he figured out a business model, and so apparently since 2006, he has been working on a water heater.
Okay. That's not that exciting, but I want to hear about it.
Um, I know. Well, his point is he goes, water heaters are based on an old dead technology, and so the HeatWorks Model 1 is based on, he goes, it's mostly digital. And so it's a tankless water heater, okay,
Okay.
which uh, so there's like I would say how do I want to look at this? There's four types of water heaters and maybe two groups. There are tank water heaters, okay,
Right.
and then tankless water heaters. Then there are electric water heaters and gas water heaters, and you can create the four combinations through those different types, right?
Right.
And so like for example, our parents have a gas tank water heater.
Right.
Uh, all of my homes are electric tank water heaters. The downside of that, the way the tank water heater works is that it keeps a tank full of water warm all the time.
Right.
And in case you decide one day I want some hot water, it's ready for you. So not the most energy efficient devices in the world by any and stuff like that, which is what I do. But there's that, and then but the one of the new innovations is this tankless water heater, which is essentially a water heater that doesn't require a tank. It instantly heats it, and what happens is so in a tank one, it's actually kind of cool. It's a tank, and then they stick there's a metal diet or rod that goes inside the actual tank and is just sitting in the water. And then for the electric one, it just runs electricity through it, like a light bulb gets hot. That's all that it is, and it just heats up the water around it.
Yeah.
Really not complicated. And then for the tankless one, it's a series of tubes, just like where so they run back and forth, and they're all inside. And then what happens is the heat, it heats up those tubes, and the water runs through the tubes, and by the time it gets to the end, it's the temperature that it needs to be.
Hmm.
And so so the idea is you're not, all it's doing is keeping this small little compartment warm instead of trying to do an entire tank. So they are more efficient. Um, they primarily tend to be gas ones because they do a better job of heating up that small area, but there are some electric ones that exist. They are also wicked expensive because I've looked into it because I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of cool, save on your energy costs for that. But like a normal water tank is somewhere in the neighborhood of like three to, yeah, if you get a really nice one, $800.
Yeah.
These ones are like $2,000 to $3,000.
Woo!
Yeah, exactly. But they're like, hey, but you'll save on electricity or
Yeah.
money, energy savings, and you're like, yeah, well, maybe. And from everything I read, they said it actually only makes sense if you install it yourself. If you hire someone else to install it, the payback period is just like a joke. And so I'm like, huh, great. So, anyways, all of those use the old method of heating things. And so what these guys have done is they figured out a new way to heat the water so it's significantly more efficient. And they don't use those old style of those heating things or whatever. And so which has a couple advantages. And so they say it's a digital water heater. A, it is tankless, so it's very small, it doesn't take up a lot of room at all. B, because it's digital, it has auto-stabilizing hot water, so which allows it to do a couple cool things. And not just like, so normal tanks are just like it's on or it's off, and then once it hits the desired temperature, it's off, and then it's just like fall back on. Whereas this one can actually kind of go in between, which is neat. And then another thing is it actually does have a Wi-Fi system in it, so that you could adjust the temperature of the water on the
Nice.
fly. So like one of their examples were like, let's say you have the babysitter at home, you could set it so that it will never get above like scalding, and that way your kid will be safe. They won't get like burned during a bath because there's nothing you can do about it. Another cool thing about it is that like normal water heaters require cold water to come in and then they heat them up and send it out. This could accept any temperature of water, and then it will
Right.
just adjust it to whatever that final thing it is that you want, I guess, as long as it's warmer. And so their idea was like in our situation in our household, we've got our water heater in the garage, and our bathroom sink and shower are the furthest things to it, and it actually takes a while to warm up the water, and so we will just run the water for a couple minutes to let it get hot. And he goes, you could stick this thing right in the middle of the line, right before your bathroom, and it'll take whatever the water is and then just instantly heat it up for you, so that when you turn it on, it's within a couple seconds it's hot. And he's like, and it'll start with the cold water, and then as the hot water starts mixing in, it'll auto stabilize where it goes, oh, if it's warm, I don't have to heat it up anymore. Cool. So no energy lost there for reheating up the water. And he was also like, you could also just set it right after your hot water tank too. So when it starts out and the water's warm, because it's not going to do anything, but as you drain your hot water and it starts to cool off, how after you have multiple people take a shower, like has happened in mom and dad's household at times, like this one it'll just pick it up and it'll just make sure it keeps this steady constant temperature. So anyways, pretty cool from a guy who has the money and the experience to take it to market. Oh yeah, here's the other thing. It's $400.
Oh, wow.
And
It's driving me
and from
nuts.
what I understand, it's pretty easy to install.
So
Right?
I can't figure out how it works.
Oh, they also raised, it looks like almost $500,000 on Kickstarter to
Yeah,
get it going.
I'm looking at. Okay, how is the heat water the conventional tankless water heaters? Electricity passes through the heating coil. Okay, all right. So this. Okay, cool. So basically, all it is it's a it's a they've got it's not entirely different. They're just passing the water through like a heat, a heated area, but they put a computer in there with a thermocouple, so they basically have a control loop on it, and that's cool because when you have a control loop, it's basically all that. What's that one company that we just were talking about? Ugh.
Verb?
No, the one before that with the Google bot, Nest. It's basically the
Lava?
Nest.
Yes. Okay.
Nest cost savings come from the fact that not that it like heats your house up faster, it's just that it heats you. It's more intelligent about how it does it, right? And by that it means it's keeping track of everything and doing it at the right time and doing it properly. I have no idea how they're able to sell them for $400 when they used to cost 2,000. But it doesn't express what it's doing there. But yeah, I mean that makes sense. I'm actually surprised that that's not just kind of standard technology. But I don't know I don't follow the tankless water heater market, so I
Yeah.
I'm only surprised because like feedback control loops are standard in like all temperature control stuff, but it makes it considerably more expensive to do. I mean that makes I don't know, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Generally because when I don't know, fascinating. I love that kind of stuff because you're not making it's not a huge leap forward. You're taking a couple of different technologies and applying pretty well understood engineering concepts and making something new. That's what you're supposed to do. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
I liked it. So they were runner-ups at TechCrunch Disrupt this year.
Well, you want to know who the real winner in my heart was?
Who?
Chick named Grace Choi. Choi, Choi. I'm doing bad with names today. She came up with Mink. And I don't know. Maybe when you look at when you look at Verb and what Verb does, I guess it makes sense why Verb would be a winner. But I,
I don't know why they won, to be
I don't know
honest.
why they won. But I think it's funny. I think Mink is a big. So Grace came up with a product called Mink, and one of the reasons why I like it is because if I could invest in anybody, like invest in people, just like buy stock in people, she's one of the kind of people that I would invest in. Number one, just like
So
watching a
I had
video
a.
of her.
So I'm gonna sidetrack you here. I had a professor in school where he had a crazy idea. He was like, "What if we could give scholarships to students in their second year with the understanding that he's like, it's not really a scholarship, but we'll give them a full ride, and all they owe us is like 1% of their income for the next 20 years." And he's like, because we get to watch them for the first year, we'd get to know them on an intimate level, we'd find out who the all stars are because we can tell,
Yeah.
and then we'll pay for you to go to school that second year because we like you, and then all we want is 1% of your income for like the next 20 years. He goes, and we're taking the bets on the people who we think would be high income earners to pay us back and then some. And he goes, that's my crazy idea. What do you think?
I love that idea. I don't understand why we don't. I think that's coming. Honestly, I think that's coming.
He'd
I
hurt
hear
some feelings, but yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
he's like, whatever. Get over it.
I've heard a lot of people talk about the idea of investing in individual like sports players. And there's not you're like what would you be giving them money to do since they're just talented athletes? But it's like you basically would be giving them like money up front for a cut of what they do. You're basically betting on their performance over a period of time. But I like the idea of saying I'm not necessarily investing in a product or a company. I'm investing in a person. I've heard people talk about it doing it with politicians. And just like if it were possible to buy stock in somebody, I would totally do it with this person. This video, I just I don't know why this girl just I like she's really smart and she came up with this cool idea, which is basically um she looked into how do you make makeup because she wanted to make makeup, and she realized that basically like all makeup is essentially the same. What really creates these differentiation in price where you get the really expensive makeup is color palette. And it's not that the colors are more expensive to make the different colors. It's just that the different shades are sell less. So in order to justify making it, you have to charge more, right? So that's where like Sephora charges more is because they just have a larger color palette. And you know it's a classic economics of scales, right? So the reason why the makeup at lipstick, blush, whatever at Walmart is cheaper than the stuff at Sephora isn't because it's less quality makeup. Actually, generally the base products are exactly the same. The thing is that Walmart's going to sell a billion gallons of it, and they can do it at so they can do it at small margins and make a lot of money. Whereas Sephora can't do that. They're going to sell smaller quantities, so they charge more. Simple economics. Well, she took that and said, okay. It's really easy to make, and it's all made from the same stuff. And if you buy the material in bulk, you can get it for really, really affordable prices. So how can I make makeup on my own? And it came up. It gave birth to what's basically a 3D printer for makeup. And it's not a full product. She sells it on it being really easy to use. You basically go in with like a color picker, go into Photoshop, and then or whatever, you just make a single like a page a certain type of that color, and then you hit print, and it sends it to this device, and it prints off the ink. And I think what you'd have to do is you'd have to make software just for although it would just be a layer to sort of bridge that gap, but make it cool, make it like, oh, I'm picking my ink colors, and then you could set up like a website exchange where people can design different colors and stuff. She's selling the printer for she wants to sell the printer for $200 to $300, and then sell the price of the inks for cheap. And it's funny, you could hear the people in the guys that were like, because it's a panel of guys that are all asking the questions about makeup, and so they're trying to like bring out their business stuff and and be supportive of women in technology, which is like cool because you're supposed to do that. I'm sitting here thinking this is stupid brilliant. This is like, oh my gosh, this is actually truly disruptive. Like if you ever have actually gone and spent time with your girlfriend at the makeup store, you realize this is crazy disruptive. This is like this can take an entire market and just completely shift it upside down if you package it right. It's all about the packaging, and this is really cool. This is super exciting. I want in on this. And they're like, and you could tell that some of them got it because they're like, so what are you trying to disrupt here? Are you trying to disrupt how we do makeup or the pricing model? And she goes, I'd like to do both. And they're like, you've already stated that the profit margins are crazy good on this. Can't you just disrupt how makeup is made and distributed and keep the margins? Which I was like, yeah, I would start there to let the margins come down on their own. But you're talking about a commoditization, a natural commoditization of this whole thing, right? And which is like, I don't know, I just sit there and I go like, oh, this is clever. This is a really good idea. And it was actually cool. She had the hardware there working. She did the whole demonstration with the software, took it out, and was able to put the makeup on and with the printed makeup. And you just sit there and go, man, that is such a good idea. And it's funny. It's like Verb. When you talk about the whole thing is called disrupt, right? And so it's all about disruption. And Verb, I understand why it's thought of as disruptive. But the reality of it is what are you trying to disrupt Google? Are you trying to disrupt search? I don't know. It just kind of feels like a cool product, but it doesn't feel like it's going to completely remake the landscape of these different companies. And maybe I'm just not imaginative enough. Or as I sit here and go this is the kind of product that Mink may not do it. But what Mink represents definitely will, and it's that whole idea of giving, and what it is she's basically taking the principle of of real-time manufacturing, and where you just sell the components, whether that's plastic, because calling it 3D printing is kind of a misnomer, except that what it is it's rapid manufacturing, rapid prototyping that's done at an affordable price point. You give that stuff to people, and then you give them the ability to get creative. Holy cow! And that is potentially truly disruptive. And makeup is an enormous market. Cosmetics is crazy big, and you could completely change the distribution model for cosmetics throughout the world. Well, how is that not unbelievably disruptive? It's funny, and I'm I appreciate the fact that they got excited about it's a girl in tech, yay! But I think they got excited about it being a girl in tech, yay! Because it's a girl in tech, as opposed to like this is a crazy cool product, and and it's also really cool because there is a I don't know. For me, it's like I want people to I don't like it when females are their ideas don't get as much credence because they're females. I really hate that. But I hate it also just as much when we say, wow, this is a really great idea, because guess what? A girl was able to come up with it. Like that's horrible too. The whole okay, that's not the right way to look at this. The right way to look at this is it's a great idea, and it's going to bring really cool, important technology to a lot of people who don't necessarily appreciate it, aka 13-year-old girls who care about makeup. And you're going to start teaching them about rapid prototyping and developing different websites and different product models, and bringing technology and literally getting the technology out of the way so that they can be creative through these technological processes, which the greatest products in the world are all about taking technology and having them get out of the way. And I heard I was reading about Google's moonshots and the whole Google X thing, and they basically say like we're only trying to do one thing. We're trying to get technology out of the way. Use technology to get out of the way. That's what Google Glass is all about. That's what Google Drive is all about. It's about it's about giving technology to people in such a way where it just becomes seamless, and they become obviously dependent on it at some point. It just works. It works around them, and you sit there and go, I don't know, this is really cool. This is really cool in all the right ways. And I was irritated watching the a couple of the guys on the stage because they didn't seem to get it. They seemed to be excited about it because it was a girl, and you're like, okay, get off, leave me alone. Whereas I don't know, I just, like I said, if I could invest in somebody, this is the kind of person I would invest in. I'd also invest in the Blue Rhino guy, because simple ideas that take off are, those are hard to come up with. Holy cow, those are hard to come up with. And that's a simple idea that took off.
And I'm like, I pay for water. If I can get people to not run their water for even just a couple minutes, that starts to add up pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the Verb guys, like, it's a cool name, it's a cool technology, but it's not. And Google, the reason why Google doesn't do that isn't because they don't think it's a good idea, or it's not because they think that it's not a viable market. The reason Google doesn't do it is because they want a computer that's so smart that it does it for them. And they don't have one yet, so they're going to focus on things that the computers are smart enough to do. They want to build an AI that will just kind of figure that out all for you, and take everything that you do with their services and turn that into those kind of vertical ideas. Whereas Verb is saying, like, basically, we're going to do this for movies. And date nights and stuff, and so there will be a couple of tasks that it's very good at, whereas Google wants it to be expandable to any task. That's when they'll bring out a product like that. That's what Google now is about. That's what they're like, all their Google search, voice activated stuff. That's what it's all about. It's about it being scalable. Whereas Verb is more like Siri, where Siri is good at specific tasks. Now it's got great language comprehension for those tasks, but there's only a few things that it can do. Unless you tell it, set an alarm for exactly 11, and then it responds back, What time would you like me to set your alarm for exactly 11? 11 o'clock. Set it for 11 o'clock, Siri.
If you do that exactly, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Verb is disruptive. I think these other two are, and I think
Yeah,
I don't think
with
you'll
you.
hear about what?
I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever hear Verb again unless you sign up for their service, which I did. Mm.
There you go. Or I will actually probably buy that water heater at some point in time.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, I'd install it in my own house. Just not that I'd have to figure out how to get under my house somehow in order to do it.
Crawl.
I,
Um,
yeah, there was a way to get to that.
right. I
That's
understand.
yeah. I have to break
Yeah,
through my here.
let's say
Dig
I think you what?
Oh, there is no way to get to my crawl space underneath the house. So either I'm going through a floor or I'm digging under or something, some combination.
That seems like a poor design.
Yeah, I would agree.
Huh.
Won't argue. Won't hear any arguments from me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah.
let's move on here
Okay.
to I don't care.
So Target CEO stepped down after the whole breach thing of all their data, which I think is interesting. Just sort of the characters of tech, right? I mean, that stinks. That's a big thing. But one of the and there were rumors that they found the guy that had done it, but and then those rumors got turned over. No, we didn't find him. But but they also a bunch of the tech credit card companies announced this week that they're finally starting the big giant push for getting everybody over to the chipped credit cards. And everybody
Yeah.
and they were putting off as long as they could because it was going to cost $1 billion, billions and millions of dollars, and they weren't looking forward to that. But they think that the Target breach was kind of what pushed it over the edge. They're like, okay, it's time. We got to do this. The vulnerabilities are now becoming unavoidable, and we got to do something to shore up our security. So so far nobody knows of any money that's been stolen through Target, but still going to costing people their jobs, costing the economy. In these big companies, a bunch of dollar bills. So that'll be interesting. To see. You're gonna get your chipped card soon. It's gonna be like going to foreign
I already have.
lands. Yeah.
Well, and from what I understood, remember how I was talking about I had one and then I got like another one and I was like, oh, that's weird. The reason for that was because of all the data breaches going on. They sent me another card just because.
Interesting.
So yeah. So I've got the chip. I'm ready, man. That expense
You.
has already been made. Wells Fargo
Mm.
is on top of things.
Well, let's see. Apple's moving too slow. I thought Apple was gonna try to pull a fast one and have that whole rollout happen at the same time with their iBeacon thing, but iBeacon, credit card. But we'll see if they're able to pull that off. Probably not at this point, but meh. Bummer. So expect that coming over the next couple of years. I'm sure we'll have something to talk about in that. Also, the Facebook effect. So
Oh man.
early on, Oculus Rift, everybody chastised at Facebook for these, purchasing them and selling out and blah, blah. And basically everything we talked about why this was a good idea, and because this is why you listen to the show, is everything we talked about why we thought it was a good idea early on. Turns out that's exactly what's going on. It was a great idea because now all the venture capitalists are investing in the Oculus developers projects. They're getting into the game.
Oh, that's because that means that there'll be software to back up the hardware.
Yep. And there wasn't any confidence up until this point that there would be enough hardware to justify massive software development stuff. So the VCs weren't, giving any money to the development community. And now, because Facebook's behind it and there will be a final product, and everybody believes it. Now there's going to be software, and which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, neither really. They kind of come at the same time, and in order for things to work, and here you go. They're gonna co-develop, which is very cool, very exciting. They also it leaked out of Sony, or Sony said something. But did you hear anything about that? The Sony controllers. They have this like bright LED light on it that drives everybody absolutely crazy because it's super bright when you like turn off your lights and everything. Were you aware of that?
No. No.
Yeah, the new PlayStation 4 controllers, it was driving people nuts, and everybody's like, "Why would you do
Ah,
this? It's like a terrible design thing." Well, they finally like let it slip this week. They're like, um, it has something to do with Project Morpheus, which is their VR stuff. Everybody's like, "What? What?" Like, we can't tell you what, and we would have told you months ago, but we didn't want to blow the surprise with Project Morpheus. But yeah, those are connected. Like, what do you mean? So basically, what everybody's decided, based on that admission and kind of the rumors that have been going around, is that project or the PlayStation controllers, they're going to be involved in motion tracking in some way. So
hmm.
the Morpheus head tracker, the controller head tracker, the magic wands, you're gonna get all movemented out, and everything's gonna be tracked with motion, which is cool. It's exciting. So
Cool.
I didn't have anything to do with anything other than Oculus Rift. I'm just excited about VR, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I
um,
can tell. That's okay.
but
What is Kickstat?
okay, Kicksat. So this is actually one of the coolest Kickstarter projects that I've seen, just because it's kind of random. Basically, what this dude said is said, I want to launch a satellite. I want to launch a satellite. They said it was actually a group working for MIT or something. It's a student group from um, his name is Manchester. Zach Manchester. He doesn't go to Manchester University. Where does he go? Doesn't matter. Some university. They wanted to build a satellite, launch it out into space, and then do stuff with it. And so they came up with this Kickstarter project idea, which was basically they build this satellite, and it would have all these tiny little satellite discs on it, and they're small. They're only a couple inches on the side, but they'd have an antenna and a solar panel on it and stuff. And so they had this big carrier unit that they'd launch out into space, and then that would sit out there in space for a little while, and then it would just start to spin at some point, and they'd release all the latches that kept the smaller satellites in place, and then as it spun, all these little satellites would disperse. And if you paid enough on Kickstarter, you'd buy one. Basically, it'd be yours, and and it would start to transmit all sorts of data and stuff. And it was a big experiment, and they basically would get to like launch a satellite into space, and it was going to be really cool and really exciting. So this last week, they got it successfully funded. They built it. They got the rocket they were going to launch it up on. They launched it into space, and then they had to deal with solar radiation. It turns out the whole thing is run by like this one microprocessor in the main body of it, and this thing is your microcontroller. It controlled everything, make sure that all the spin rates or everything were going right, and it turns out it got hit by some sort of. They think it got hit by some sort of cosmic radiation, and it messed with the real-time clock that's built into it that keeps track of time and reset it. And the reason why that's a big deal is because the clock was counting down to when it was supposed to start its spin and launch all the satellites out of it, and the clock being reset sets it back like 2 weeks, which you wouldn't think was a big deal, except it turns out that the decay rate of its fall back to Earth means that it won't actually start the launch of the satellites until it started its reentry into Earth's atmosphere, which, if you've ever seen reentry into Earth's atmosphere, it's not pleasant for any mechanical devices involved, and they get vaporized. So they do not think that the thing will actually launch its sub-satellite systems before it re-enters and destroys everything. So bummer December. There is a chance that they might be able to establish a communication link and they'll be able to actually force it to launch. But they're pretty doubtful that they'll be able to, and they're going to keep working on it until the uh, the disappointing end of this project. But bummer.
That's oh man, I would cry.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's just I feel so bad. I feel so bad for everybody involved because it's just like that's right. Space is not easy. Like NASA, they make it look easy.
Out in rocket science.
Yeah, right. I know. Jeez. And and it's like you wouldn't even think about it. They're like, yeah, we were able to do run diagnostics, and it wasn't a power surge or anything. It was just the only thing that makes sense. It's kind of process of elimination. They're like, the only thing that could have caused this cosmic radiation, just a blast of some decaying particle knocking the timer and messing with it, and just like bummer. Bummer. Well, what are you supposed to do? I just feel so bad for everybody involved. At the same time, they got to launch a satellite into space. I mean, they didn't get to launch 1,000 satellites into space, which is a bummer. But you know, they got to launch at least one, which is pretty cool. That's one more than I've gotten to launch into space. So I don't know. I'll give them credit where credit's
That's
due.
kind of where it would be really cool if, I don't know, someone like Elon Musk is watching and feels for the group and is like, we'll get it up there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
donates. You know what I mean? Just throughout the process of, in our next International Space Station run, we'll add it to the cargo and we'll push it out the door and, make it happen. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing where you'd like to see him step up. If it fails, like, hey, I know this was a dream. I saw it fail on a Kickstarter. I think it's kind of a cool idea. If we care about space, let's go for it.
Right. Right. Let's see here.
Talking
Let's.
about something else coming crashing down and burning up. Let's talk about the Wii U.
Yeah. Oh man. I know. This is just disappointing. It bums me out all the time. Basically,
Yeah, watch. We know it's coming. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a surprise when they announced it, right?
yeah. Yeah. Right. It's crushing their bottom line. It is tanking the company right now. Um, the 3DSs are pretty much all that's left. But nobody's buying a Wii U, and it's not pretty. It is not pretty. It's GameCube all over again, which is just rough because they're like both are suffering from the same thing. They're good systems, good games. Nobody cares. What are you supposed to do? Um, the answer is build better systems that are more exciting and change stuff. But it's the yeah. So Nintendo reported a staggering loss of $456 million, which is a lot of money for the last year, and it's being laid squarely at the Wii U. Nintendo sold 2.72 million Wii U's in the last 12 months. Running totals for the Xbox One and PS4, which haven't been out for a full year, is 5 and 7 million respectively. The last quarter, they only sold 310,000 units, which is dismal. They sold 12 million 3DSs, and which means they've sold just shy of 43 million globally, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that's just terrible. That's just terrible. It's terrible. And Nintendo's already kind of talked about like what they plan on doing next. There's rumors they're kind of stoking rumors of building a phone like a Nintendo cell phone, which
Oh yeah, I think I've heard about that.
yeah, it seems like a horrible idea because why would you buy that? I mean, like unless it was great hardware with a whole suite of apps, like are you gonna put a Facebook app on it? Because I love Nintendo products, and if it doesn't have a Facebook app, I'm not going to use it, Nintendo. Now, it would be interesting if they basically took Android and put a Nintendo Virtual Engine on top of it, and put a Nintendo layer into the whole thing, and how they would secure that in such a way that it wouldn't just become wildfire where everybody would steal it. Except everybody already has Nintendo Virtual Engines on their virtual machines on their Android phone. So I don't know if it were me in the company, I wouldn't worry about it that much. That's the only route that you could go though, if you were Nintendo, was to basically leverage the Android, do what Kindle did, do what Amazon did with the Kindle, which is build your own interface, build your own everything, but it runs Android apps. That way you'd get Facebook and everything, which would be kind of cool. They've also kind of talked about building a system for developing markets, which would be a lower end system that was cheaper. Which who knows how that would fare, but they're struggling. They are not doing well, which freaks me out because I don't want them to stop making video games. But
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, it's not just I mean, unless they want to just switch over to software and go the EA route, but that would require them to make them for different systems, and I just don't see them doing that.
yeah, I like the
So
idea.
get it over with. Come on.
I know.
Not gonna happen.
Go,
Not gonna
go,
happen. But I can.
pull a Dr. Dre. Um,
Yeah.
Which it's funny. The last I heard, they actually I mentioned earlier that he was going to be the first hip hop billionaire, and then everybody was like, actually, if you look at if it is a $3.2 billion deal based on his current assets and how much of Beats that he owns, it would actually like bring him up shy of $1 billion by a couple hundred, and like couple $10 million, and which I know is like you're splitting hairs at that point, but let's be real, like a 950 100 millionaire is not a billionaire. I mean, you're almost there, I get it, but let's wait until you get there before we celebrate crossing the finish line. um how did I get there? Oh yeah, Nintendo, they should do that. Sell the fate, sell the Apple. um as an iPhone owner, I'd be totally down with that. But oh, then
Now I'm really interested in this holograms thing in India. What is that?
okay, so this one's kind of a weird. So do you remember back when Snoop Dogg performed with Tupac on stage at Coachella like 2 or 3 years ago?
No, no.
Okay, well, Tupac's been dead for a long time, and so in order for him to
Oh, that was a virtual thing, right? Or
right, because yeah, so
yeah,
Tupac was
yeah. Okay.
dead, so yeah, so then and it's that whole hologram thing that they've been doing forever at the Haunted Mansion at in Disneyland, where you take a reflective glass surface and you project onto the glass surface so you can see through it, and you see the projections, and that's how they make the ephemeral ghosts that fly around. They basically did the same thing at Coachella, but it was a CGI version of Tupac singing, rapping one of his songs, and doing it with Snoop Dogg, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, and part of the whole mythos of Tupac is that he's been releasing albums long after he was dead. So they're like, what? How dead is he? And he's pretty dead. They're old tracks that they didn't publish before that. And so, anyways, this basic technology, same thing. In India, the world's largest democracy, how do you go around and talk to people, and you're trying to convince 800 million people to vote for you to be the prime minister of your country, and it's hard. And so what this dude has done is he's gone around and they set up these holographic projectors on stages all over the country, and then he'll do these video conferences where he's basically just in front of a camera, and then they're projecting this image onto these glass
Weird.
screens on a stage. Yeah, but he's there and he's doing meet and greets and he's talking to everybody, but it gives him a more, more of a presence because he's on stage as opposed to you're just watching him on a TV screen. And it's like, it's all stage crafted, but it's designed to allow him to actually, feel like he's more there, and it seems to be working. It's helped his polls. It's just one of those weird twists of technology because you're like, it's just a TV show, like it's just a TV conference, like he's not here. He's not even doing like a web conference with a giant group. It's like a pre-recorded thing, like, but it's sort of like with Tupac. It was like, it having Tupac's CGI be on a screen in the background would be like, okay, that's kind of cool, I guess. But having CGI Tupac be on stage, like same size and like moving around with Snoop Dogg, everybody went wild. They just thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and it got a huge amount of press. Man, I don't. It's funny. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's interesting because the technology is so old. They're not doing anything new or clever, for whatever reason, it has a completely different effect on people than projecting these images onto screens. And it makes me wonder. I want to think about it long and hard. Why does this do this? Because to me, I get the gimmick, but at the same time, I think it's kind of cool and exciting. And I don't know why. I don't know why. To me, I wonder if you'll see more of that in the near future in countries other than India, because
Like in United States next election around.
yeah, specifically, I don't think the next election, but I could see it in 2020, 2020. Yeah, I could see in 2020 somebody doing it.
I love the last line on this little article it says here. They said Modi, who's this politician who's doing it. They said he's promising working toilets to every household. Like, which is to say, the country with the world's first hologram politician is also a country that lacks indoor plumbing on a wide scale. We live in a weird world.
Yeah.
Yep,
It is weird.
true.
That is really weird. But holographic projections on a stage are way cheaper to do a couple of than
Yeah, that's
indoor
true.
plumbing. Indoor plumbing is an infrastructure of tremendous scale. But
So I have non-news.
all right, tell me about it.
Facebook poke is
Yeah, I
dead.
like that. Oh, dang it! Who killed it?
Facebook did.
Oh yeah.
They down from the store, and they also took out a Facebook camera. Just done.
Mm. Nobody used it. Their experiment failed. I'll bet Snapchat those jerks were celebrating in their homes.
Yeah,
We
probably.
got that news.
Yeah, which actually, like, I thought Poke was a better app, but
It suffered from Facebook branding syndrome, the Facebook effect. um, people didn't want to use it because it wasn't cool, it wasn't hip, it wasn't the cool bar to go and attend. But I agree. I thought it was much better performance, much better overall everything, and better features. But like you said, people didn't want to use it. One of the things that Snapchat does, it just drives me nuts, is how many people don't know how to take a video with their Snapchat. And I've decided it's because Snapchat comes up with like all these like clever UI things that nobody else uses. Literally, no other app uses that design language except them. And I think they want to push it and make it popular and be responsible for the idea of you take a picture by tapping it, you take a video by holding it. And it's one of those things that literally nobody figures it out, which I think is so stupid. And Snapchat drives me nuts. And they got their big like they got the FCC basically came out and was like, dude, y'all lied. Like, really, you lied. That like if you listen to the show, it's been obvious for a while. Your pictures don't get deleted. And they do data mining on all of the stuff that passes through their servers. Like the pictures are there. There's nothing, there's nothing uh, they have that little ghost and ephemeral,
Yeah.
you know, stuff. And the second time I've used that word today. And obviously, I'm trying to make sure I use it right in context. I used it wrong the other day. And I said it, and I said that's wrong. And I looked it up, and I'm like, yeah, it was wrong. And now I want to like make sure I use it right. um, but yeah, that whole temporary thing is just not true. And so the FCC came back and was like, y'all lied. You shouldn't do that anymore. And then Snapchat was like, yeah, you're right, we lied. They don't get deleted. But which I don't know. It bums me out because I think I don't like them, and and like you said, Poke is a better app. But then again, how often did you use Poke versus Snapchat?
Well, I used Poke a whole bunch when it first got started,
Yes.
and was poking people left and right, and then no one was responding. So I would go to
Yeah.
where the response.
Right. Exactly. That's and that's the problem. There's no reason to keep the app around if nobody's using it, and nobody was using
See, I
it.
feel like if Facebook could have figured out, had maybe not keep it as a standalone app, but have it so that it was somehow integrated in with the big Facebook,
Yeah.
where, hey, James sent you a poke message and you read it and then it warns you it's going to go away, and then it just does, right? And then
Yeah.
like, hey, if you want to send James one of these messages, download the app. Had they integrated it a little bit better to get people to try it out and check it out, I think that actually would have helped some, but they didn't. So, whatever. The other one is camera, which they're like its big innovation was you could upload more than one photo at once, which
Yeah.
now you can main app. So we're good.
Right, and they came out with like the product was being launched like what was it, a week after they bought Instagram, and everyone was like, what's the deal? And Mark was
Yeah,
like, let's see which one wins. And so they
yeah.
didn't put any marketing strength behind it because they Instagram was doing what it was supposed to do, and they didn't worry about it. So yeah, and I think we realized that both of those products were direct competitors with those other two products, and they dealt with them how they dealt with them, which was they didn't deal with Snapchat, and they're just letting them peter out on their own, and they dealt with Snapchat by or Instagram by buying them. Um, so yeah, interest. Last but not least, so part of bigger news. Cab companies are they're freaking out, talking about disruptiveness. Um, Uber and Lyft and your various cab companies are your various cool new sharing economy transportation apps. 'Cause they don't like to be called, they're not cabs, right? Um, they're they're messing with the cab companies in a big way, and there's been some kind of cool news along with it. Number one, Uber got integrated into Google Maps, so you can do Uber directly through Google Maps now, which is a big news for Uber. There was a big story that the black cabs in London are like they're threatening like to go on strike and just cause mass chaos if Uber is allowed to get in on their territory, which is how freaked out they are by Uber, which is exciting because that is the true sign of a true disruptiveness. But the big one that I thought was, I just think this is so dumb, but it's scientists are trying to help taxis beat Uber at its own game. basically what happened was one of Uber's big, one of these companies. It's like, they were pitched as the sharing economy, right? Anybody with a car can now do this whole thing, do the taxi thing, and you can make some money on the side, and it's cool. I've met people like that, and it's really cool. They're just like, they're going to school, they got a car, it's a Saturday afternoon, they're gonna pick some fares up, make a couple extra bucks for the bar tonight. Like, it's cool. It's really a cool idea, especially if you're living in cities where this makes sense, like San Francisco or Seattle or stuff. Um, but it's wrecking the cab companies. And one of the big things that Uber's able to do, because they've got all these data and they're bringing them all together, is you get picked up so quick. It is so easy to call a cab. You get picked up really quickly, and they're able to balance the loads really, really well, so that they're like cab. There's not during the slow period. There's not long waits of like cabs aren't getting used, and then during the fast periods, like when it's really busy, there aren't long waits for the people, for the cab people getting a cab, and there aren't like, and the cabs aren't overloaded because they're not being well coordinated. Basically, what's coming in is engineers are building apps or building, the structures for the cab companies to start doing this massive organization of cabs. So they can do all the load balancing that they're supposed to do and get everybody to where they're supposed to get, and they're basically leveraging the cool technology that Uber has been developing, and these, Uber
Yeah,
and
it
Lyft
sounds
and
like it.
everybody. Yeah, and they're basically saying, well, that was a clever idea because it's a better product, and that's why they're killing us. It's not just because it's cheaper. And it happens to be cheaper and a better product. Yeah, that's how you really disrupt. And that's what they're doing, is they're like, they're saying, well, we're going to take away one of their weapons, which is it's a better product. I get picked up faster, and which is great. I mean, that's the nature of competition, right? Um, you know,
Yeah, I much prefer this over, them trying to sue them or,
that's what I'm
making the leap.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is fantastic news. This is fantastic news for everybody, because I still think there's a value proposition for licensed taxi cabs as opposed to, Lyft and everything, all these other companies, because there is kind of a sole security. They're registered, they're licensed, they're
Yeah.
you're going to pay more because you're supposed to get a better service. And if you get a better service and it costs more, then they'll still survive. The problem is that it's not necessarily a better service, right? These sharing economy transportation apps are safe, they're secure, they're faster, they're cheaper, and the taxis have to reconcile that. If you're going to cost more, you have to be worth more, and this is one of the big ways that they need to catch up, and they're catching up, which is cool. This makes me super excited. What they're doing in London, they're idiots. They're absolute. They're gonna. You're gonna lose this one. You're gonna lose this one eventually, and I guess it makes sense to fight it as long as you can. Why kill the golden goose a minute sooner than you have to? Um, but at the same time, like, brace yourselves. Um, don't think the golden goose is gonna survive forever, because eventually everybody's gonna start to figure this stuff out, and you're not gonna win. But it's interesting. Uber's big argument is that they're not a metered taxi service, because technically what they do is you tell them that where you want to go from where to where, and then they calculate your fare based on that information, and so you're not actually metered when you get in the car. All the costs are predetermined, and whereas taxis, it's all metered, and because of that, it's a
Huh.
different. Yeah.
Technicality.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's legally, they can't stop companies like Uber from operating as a uh, as a as a taxi service, because they're technically not, as a metered taxi service, because technically they're not a metered taxi service. But
It's like a limo.
uh,
Hmm.
exactly, I thought so. But
Mhm. Very cool. Wow.
Yeah,
So there were some happenings this week in tech. Pretty
yeah,
interesting
no, it's
overall.
cool.
Yeah, I like it. Cool, man. Cool. Well, I don't have a good way of ending it.
I guess just say,
I guess.
Happy
I
Mom's
guess.
Day.
Happy Mom's Day, everybody. That's right. So on that note, everybody, that's our show. Tech happened, and there's still a lot going on. We're coming into the summer months where things will start heating up, and we'll continue.
That was dorky.
I know. I know. I love it. It just comes to me. I don't even try. All right, everybody. Uh, thank you for joining us. My name is James Furlo, and my brother from the exact same mother is Matthew Furlo. And so we will talk next time. All right, there it is.
Right, bub.
All right, have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.